Welcome to Still Surviving and Walking in Your Purpose. I'm your host, Gigi Blackshear. Our guest has an amazing story of what it means to go from pitiful to powerful. Please welcome to our show, Mr. Richard Preston. Richard, welcome to our show.
Thanks for having me.
Richard, please tell our audience, who is Richard Preston and what is your survival story?
Richard Preston is a sinner saved by God's amazing grace and mercy. I am an addiction expert by consequence. I'm a recovering alcoholic and addict of over 12 years. I have a passion for people who are going through addictions, and my gift is to help them.
Okay. You say over 12 years. That's a pretty good part of your life. You don't seem to be that old, so 12 years?
Well, thanks for the compliment. But I actually wallered in the addictions through alcohol, the progression of it, for over 3 decades.
Oh my!
I got sober at the age of 41. I am 53 years old now, so I had a lot of experience going through the addiction.
Started with alcohol?
It did. My first drink was at the age of 6. My parents were having a little cocktail party. I went in there and snuck me a little drink, and it was an instant love affair. Wow. I loved everything about it. I loved the smell. I loved the taste of it. And that started at the age of 6, a life of sneaking drinks. And then, just like most people know, it progressively got worse throughout the years.
Progressively got worse.
Yes, ma'am.
So, starting as early as 6.
Yes.
How fast did it progress? Because I'm wondering, at the age of 6, surely someone would have recognized or would have noticed. I know you said you started out sneaking drinks. Was there any point between 6 and adulthood? Was there no person that recognized that there was an issue?
Yes. Actually, I started drinking at 6, of course, and then it started elevating as I started going through school. But what hindered me is it never hampered my ability in school or anything. As a matter of fact, I excelled in school. I did well scholastically, and I even earned a scholarship to go to Jacksonville University. I was in the top 10% of my class at Sandalwood in 1982. And I scored a 1460 on my SAT test. Great question once again. I was dating a young lady who was going to the University of Florida, and she's one that really noticed it. And she told me, she said, one day you're going to be busting AA's doors wide open. And I saluted her with a drink of beer, and I continued to do what I was doing.
So would you have considered yourself an alcoholic at that point?
Well, the technical definition would be yes. But I didn't see myself as an alcoholic because I had the stereotype of an alcoholic as a bum in the gutter, somebody who wasn't excelling at school, somebody who was abusing people. I didn't have those characteristics. Another thing, Gigi, is I came from a loving family. I had a mother and a father in the home, 6 brothers, was very active in church. So I just thought I was partying and having a good time.
Yeah. And functioning well.
And functioning well.
And functioning
Or
well.
so I thought.
So you thought.
Exactly.
So you thought.
Or so I thought.
At what point did you move from alcohol to something else? Was there something a catalyst that drove you from alcohol to something stronger?
Yes. I started smoking weed.
Mm-hmm.
And then back in the 80s, cocaine was glamorized.
Mm-hmm.
It was the intelligent drug, the sophisticated drug.
Yeah.
So I started dabbling in cocaine. One day I couldn't find any cocaine and somebody introduced me to crack.
Oh my.
And that is when I went from the frying pan to the fire. To the fire.
Yeah, yeah. Were you still able to function at that point?
You know, I was able to function a little bit, but not at optimum levels like I should be.
Right.
And just like anybody else that was smoking crack, if anybody knows anybody, it started doing the same thing to me.
Yeah.
I was spending all of my money. I was working at an engineering department. I was working in the engineering department of a company that manufactured ignition systems for aircraft engines.
Wow.
And I was actually certifying FAA parts to go on aircraft engines. And I was high on crack every day that I worked for that company, and I worked for them for 5 years.
I asked that question because I imagine that there's a lot of that going on every day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people that have addictions, that are still able to function, still able to do their jobs, still able to produce whatever products they need to produce, but have those issues.
You could be sitting right next to an alcoholic, an addict, and not even know it, just like you said.
Yeah.
In the four walls of Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, we're always told to never take another person's inventory. But there are telltale signs of people using alcohols and drugs that I pick up on right away. As a matter of fact, I would always tell my boss, you know, I think that person, I always preface it with this, I hope I'm wrong.
I hope I'm wrong.
But this person is exhibiting all the characteristics of somebody using. And I was batting 100%.
Wow.
I was batting 100%.
Just from experience.
Just from experience.
Just from experience.
Just from experience.
So you were still able to function and did very well. Good jobs. Did you have a family?
I did. And I had a loving family. And this is another thing that we talk about, and when I'm out giving a speech or trying to help someone, enabling is a very bad thing when it comes to addiction. There is a fine line between enabling and loving someone.
Yes.
There's no other love like a mom and her child. I know that.
Yeah.
And typically, even today, when I go out to help someone, the mom is typically enabling that addict, because they don't want to see that addict stealing. They don't want to see that addict sleeping in a homeless shelter, sleeping in the woods, just as I did.
Right.
So they think they're helping them, and in return, they're actually making it worse.
By giving them money,
Giving them money, giving them a place to stay, giving them rides, even talking to them sometimes.
Yeah.
It came to a point with my mom, and I always laugh about it, you know, hey, this is Richard, click. She did get to that point where she stopped enabling me.
Yeah. And I imagine that's a hard place as a mother of two sons. You know, you want to be there for them. And that love that you have for them makes you want to help, makes you want to do everything you can to support them.
Yeah, because, you know, your mom always tells you, I love all y'all equally. I don't love one more than the other. So when I was down and out, she proved that. And she would help me. She would give me money. She would do whatever she wanted. I was her baby.
Yeah.
And it did me no good.
It didn't help you at all.
And of course, I ended up using her just like I used everybody else that came across my path. I stole from her, lied, manipulated, cheated.
Everything was a means to an end.
You better believe it. You better believe it.
Richard, what was the catalyst? What was the thing that, did you get to your lowest point? Is that the thing? What was the thing that allowed you to move from a life of addiction beyond that? What was the thing?
You know, a lot of people ask that question, and there's a myth, if you ask me, that people think that you should hit your rock bottom before you can get better. I had a lot of rock bottoms. But when I finally got sick and tired of being sick and tired, it really wasn't my worst bottom. I'd been trespassed at my mom's house. It was my 41st birthday, and I went to jail for trespassing. There's more to it in this. It's in my book. It's very well written at this point, and it comes across what happened. But I went to jail, and my brother showed up in the court proceedings. The judge was about to let me go, and my brother wanted him to lock me up and throw away the key. And he told the judge that I don't know him anymore. He's not Preston anymore. We weren't raised that way. The judge said, this is highly unusual. Put us off until the end. And I got up and spoke to the judge, and I told him, I said, it's a myth and a misnomer that people that are addicted to drugs want to be, because I did not want to be. And I cried and I pleaded. My brother warned him. He said, he's a talker, Your Honor, be careful. But he gave me that chance, and he sent me off to rehab with a year's probation, told me if I violated, he was going to lock me up and throw away the key.
Oh, my.
The aha moment came, Gigi, is when I got in there. I had been to rehab several times. I call it the rehab roller coaster. But I went for all the different reasons of those other times, to save jobs, my daughter's mom, things like that. But this time I really meant it. And I wrote a letter to the judge thanking him for giving me an opportunity. And guess what? He wrote me back. And the judge and I became pen pals while I was in rehabilitation. He actually came to my graduation, and he wrote a letter on my behalf to get in the workforce as well. My. Yes.
Divine providence.
Exactly. And he is a good friend of mine to this day. He calls me now for prayer when his daughter has to be treated for a rare disease that she has. And he said something to me I'll never, ever forget. He says, Richard, you renewed my faith in mankind.
How powerful is that?
Powerful.
Richard, what would you say to someone that may find themselves in that place that you were, dealing with addictions, wanting to be free? What would you say to that person?
The first tradition and the first step in getting treatment is honesty. So the first thing I would tell you is to thine self be true. I went for years in denial, and denial is an acronym for me that says, don't even know that I'm a liar.
Oh, say that again?
Don't even know I'm a liar. Denial.
Wow.
And it wasn't until I came to truth with myself that my life was a mess.
Yes.
That I needed help. Was I able to get help? I kept thinking of myself as a better addict than the next. I can do this. I can do calculus. I can do that. And I kept fooling myself, and it impeded my progress. I always knew that one day I would not be smoking crack. I didn't know how I had gotten caught up into that, but I loved to drink. And one was going along with the other. And it wasn't until I said, the party has just got to be up, was I able to find true serenity.
Party's over.
The party's over.
Richard, you have shared with us an amazing story. And I truly believe that because we know that those addictions are out there. We know that people are dealing with those very same things every day. So I know that in sharing your story, someone is going to be helped. There is someone that is sitting in their living room right now that's saying, how am I going to ever get out of this? And in sharing your story, you have opened the door for them to see that there is a way out. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. We're going to come back in just a few moments to hear more from Mr. Richard Preston. We are back with Mr. Richard Preston. Richard, you talked about the thing that